strips. So to begin the repair, the first thing you want to do is power off the device. From there we can remove the stylus pin and the back battery cover. Once the back battery cover is removed, we're just going to remove the battery, the SIM card, and the memory card. Now, using our small Phillips screwdriver, we're going to have 11 small Phillips screws shown in that diagram to the left that will need to be removed from the back housing. Take note that all these screws will be the same size, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. And just have the final few on the bottom here. And there we go. We're just going to move the screws out of the way. And now we're ready to remove that back housing. So we're going to use our safe open pry tool. Just pry along the seam right here between the screen and that chrome bezel. You want to be careful here as there is going to be one clip right above the battery right there in that tray. Just release that one and release all the ones on top and sides. As you can tell, the back cover is already starting to come off a little bit. So just try to apply some pressure away from the housing and then use your pry tool and just continue to release those clips. Let's get some of the final clips on the top here. As you can see, it's almost removed from the top. And there we go. And now we're just going to gently release those lower clips, and there we go. Back cover has now been removed. So now we have the motherboard fully exposed. So we're going to have 4 small Phillips screws that need to be removed right here. These can be shown in red on the diagram to the left. You want to be careful of this one here, as that metal plate usually comes up with it. So that just needs to be removed as well. And then we're just going to have one more small Phillips screw on the motherboard itself, which is black. Down at the bottom here we have the loudspeaker assembly, which just gently lifts away after that screw's been removed. And now we're ready to start releasing all these connections colored in green on that diagram to the left. So we're going to use our safe open pry tool and just lift away all of these connections. So we're going to start down here on the USB port flex cable here. This is going to be your keypad flex and home button, an antenna, your screen assembly, your headphone jack, up here we're going to have the sensors, the ear speaker, and the front camera. And over here we're going to have the button flex, which we're just going to remove completely from the housing, as it's just held in place with a little bit of adhesive. It's such a small flex cable, I usually like to remove it. And there we go, the motherboard can now be fully removed. Just want to be careful not to get it caught on any of those flex cables and rip anything. So there's a look at the front of the motherboard and the back. To remove that main camera, all it is a simple pop connector. And there we go. Alright, now we're just going to put that motherboard to the side and remove some of these other small components, including this headphone jack here, which just lifts away very easily. It's also going to hold the ear speaker. I'm just going to put that to the side. And here you're going to have the front camera and sensors. And we're just going to lift away this antenna cable from its little slot there. And just lift away that flex cable. This one has your mic and your USB port on it. Alright, now we're going to use a small flathead to get underneath this vibrate motor. It's held in place with pretty strong adhesive, so I wouldn't recommend using a regular pry tool. But if you want to remove that, it's simply done with a small flathead. This is going to be your home button flex right here. And there we go, that's all the small components now removed from that front housing. So now we're ready to start warming the front assembly and removing that screen. So to do that, we're going to use a heat gun or a hairdryer. In this case, we're using our hairdryer. We're going to use a medium heat about an inch away from the device, and so you're going to use constant movement around the outside edges just to start warming up that adhesive that's holding that screen assembly to the front housing. The adhesive used on the Note 2 is very strong, so you want to take your time during this whole process. You want to make sure to thoroughly heat your device, but don't overheat, as you don't want to cause any damage to that housing or any of the small components, including that home button flex down at the bottom. So once we have it properly heated, we're going to use your safe foam pry tool, and I suggest starting near the sides here where the adhesive is very, very thin, so it's easy to break that adhesive and get yourself a decent starting spot. You want to be careful at the bottom here as to not damage that lower flex cable that I was telling you about before. This flex cable is very thin, so you don't want to cause any damage to that, otherwise your home button or your soft keys will not work properly or light correctly. So I suggest usually starting near the top and the sides and just working your way around. As you start to see a little bit of separation between that screen and the front housing, and that's exactly what we're looking for. At the top here, you do want to be careful though if you're trying to salvage your screen, because there is all the flex cables right underneath this part here, so you don't want to jam your pry tool underneath and cause too much damage. This is why I swapped over to a spudger, which gave me the length I needed to begin releasing that adhesive from the top while still being careful enough and not ripping any of those cables. The spudger tool works great on this device, and especially paired up with a safe foam pry tool, it makes it very easy to release all that adhesive. So I'm just going to feed that flex cable through, but still a little bit too stiff, so I'm just going to heat it up again. At this point we're making real progress, and the screen should come out very easily from here on. So here we go. There's just a huge difference after you heat it, because that adhesive just cuts through just like butter. So there's some of that adhesive, that pre-cut adhesive that they're using on the Note 2. As you can see, I'm prying above the LCD screen, and there we go. I can feed that cable now through that slot in the housing, and so the whole screen assembly is going to come out as one unit here. There we go. Again, be very careful with that bottom flex cable, and just make sure you feed that one through, and there we go. And the final little bit here is just adhesive covering that flex cable, so it's going to remove that. And the last little bit of adhesive there, and there we go. The screen assembly has now been removed from the front housing. The final step will just be to remove this home button flex, which I'm just going to use my spudger tool. And there's enough heat on it that I can still release all that adhesive. If that adhesive is too stiff, just hit it a little bit with the heat gun, but not too close, as that flex cable is pretty thin and you don't want to melt it. And then this last little part over here, it is a little bit thinner, so I was just decided to use a flathead just to make sure I wasn't going to damage that cable. And there we go. There's your home button flex. And of course the final little bit is just removing the home button itself, which you can easily just pop through from the front here. And there we go. Your Galaxy Note 2 is now fully disassembled. You can make any repairs to it, including that screen assembly. If you found this